Welcome to the Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens podcast. I'm Brandon Jaffe. Join us as we explore relationship and mental health issues by weeding out the trends in the mental health industry to uncover what truly works in improving our emotional well-being and relationships. At Inspired Resolutions Counseling, we specialize in providing interventions and resources for families with teens, focusing on topics such as teen mental health, parenting challenges, and family dynamics.
I want to talk about lying. It is one of those issues that comes in our center at least once or twice a month. And parents get so frustrated over their teens lying. And lying is a bad thing. I know some people say everybody lies, and some people really take offense to it and claim that they never lie. And I don't know. I don't know if everybody lies. I've definitely made bad decisions, lied about it, and regretted not telling the truth. And as you get older, hopefully you become a more honest person who's willing to take accountability for the mistakes you make instead of protecting yourself by lying about them. It's interesting as a therapist, when you're working with families, there are a couple dynamics, and I guess there's a scale of the seriousness of lying. I've worked with teens who lie about everything from very small little things all the way up to the big things. I've also worked with teens who lie about the small stuff, but are overly honest about the big stuff, which is always an interesting dynamic. And then you have teens who lie about one or two big things, and some of them come clean easily, and some of them really stick to their guns. And so you've got all these different dynamics, but often a dynamic that I see as this thing where families experience the lie, they experience the crisis, the debate, the argument. It kind of gets hammered out. The parents make their point, and then the family sets up this dynamic of, okay, now it's time for the teen to earn trust back. And as logical as that sounds, I'm going to encourage parents to not have that earn back my trust conversation. I know that might sound wild to people, but it kind of goes in line with my theory on having teens sign or create a document or a contract with you for either behavior or chores or various other things. Okay. In theory, it seems good, but it doesn't actually work. We all know that if you are dishonest, people are going to have to experience a different behavior from you for a period of time before they begin to trust you again. Now, to put a measure on it, hey, you need to tell the truth this many times, or you've got to do this, you got to show me that you're a different person this way. Well, it just doesn't work. And, you know, there are some teens who will lie about something because they're afraid, because they don't agree, and they don't want to go through the rigmarole of dealing with their parents, or just because they want to do what they want to do and they don't think that the consequences of lying are going to be that great. But the thing is when you catch your child in a lie, you most likely don't need to teach them that it's wrong. They theoretically know that it's wrong. I like this question, though. I like the question, can you tell me where you're coming from? What were you trying to protect? It's interesting when you ask that, because I think most teens are kind of rearing for, okay, yell at me, tell me it's wrong, instead of a parent who wants to have a conversation with them, who wants to actually understand where they might be coming from. And you can get a lot of information in that. I've heard varying answers. I had a teen once answer that question because I posed it with the parents in a family session with, how could I possibly tell you guys the truth? You guys are just nuts. And that, of course, did not go over well. And I kind of had to tamp things down. And as we dug further, what I started to uncover was that in this particular case, the mother, more than the father, but the mother and father together, the mother was very rigid, a lot more rigid than I had realized until this conversation. And so when you're an overly rigid parent, no matter how much you think you're protecting your child, you may be setting up a dynamic where they feel they have to lie in order to live a life that is, in their minds, worth living. For this child, as we uncovered things, it was just, look, your reaction to me even asking for little things that you disagree with are so outrageous that I have to lie in order for me to have a social life, in order for me to have friends, in order for me to have experiences that are going to result in feeling like I'm successful, feeling like my life is worth living. And that was a comment this teen that I'm thinking of actually said was, if I don't lie to you, my life sucks. My life is not worth living. And while at first I'm going, whoa, that's a huge statement, as I put myself in the mind of a teen, I kind of got it. Now, I didn't agree. His life was still worth living, and the rigid life that he had to live was so hard for him in the community that he was being raised in. And so, anyways, I'm not saying that's an excuse for lying, but sometimes that conversation that comes from, if as a parent you can ask it honestly, if you can ask it in a way where you're just what I call obliviously curious, hey, where's this coming from? Sometimes you get information that becomes crucial for working some unhealthy dynamics out in the family. Sometimes you just get a flippant answer, or they double down on I'm not lying. But sometimes they can be a really good conversation starter. As you deal with the lying, after you've gotten all the information that you can in terms of the relationship and dynamics of the family and what they're feeling or thinking or going through, it's important that you really think about, okay, what am I going to do from here on out? When you ask that, I want you to say, well, okay, do I still need to teach a lesson to this child? Am I just trying to set boundaries so that I can control the things that are healthy for me to control in terms of their behavior? Is this more about my ego? That's another thing that parents sometimes are shocked that I'll bring up, because I'll tell them, look, your child's lying because they want what they want when they want it, and they're lying about certain things I never want to say normal, but I say is not uncommon. It seems like you're less worried about their character. You're less worried about the fact that they may be making decisions or creating patterns that will cause them harm in the future, and more concerned about your ego. A lot of times the really rigid parents end up working through this with me and realizing, oh my gosh, I'm taking their lying so personally that I'm allowing it to damage the relationship and get in the way of my being able to influence them in the long run. Most parents cannot admit this to themselves, but if you're sitting down going, oh man, my child lied about these little things because it was inconvenient for them and they didn't think they should have to do it, and they lied about this big thing because they are a teen and they wanted what they wanted right now. And I am taking it so personally because how dare they lie to me? Then again, we want to model and set boundaries so that there's honesty in the home. We want to teach those lessons, but don't take personally that your child lied to you. And for some of you, when you hear that, you're going, but it is personal. It's not personal. It's a part of living. It is a part of relationship that everybody has to navigate and make decisions about your own character. Am I going to be trustworthy? Am I going to tell the truth? Am I not? And their decision to lie may be involve you because you're the rule setter and you're the boundary setter and you're the one they want to please or need to navigate around. But once you take it personally, you are going to make decisions in response that are more angry, that become less effective in terms of building a relationship that's influential. I had a dad one time who, when I said, hey, it sounds like you're taking it personally, he said, well, you blipping right I am. And I'm going to continue to take it personally. This is about me. I'm his dad. Who does he think he is? This is family that he's lying to. If there's anybody he shouldn't be lying to, it is me. Look what I've done for him. Look what I sacrificed for him. And I got the argument. But my response to that was, well, you're probably the only one he needs to lie to because you're the one that he wants to please, even though he has deep desires to experience things in life that you don't want him to experience. You're the main force in his life preventing him from making mistakes that maybe he should be able to make. You're the one who is the gatekeeper of the social life, the gatekeeper of all the things. He gets almost nothing unless you agree to it. And therefore, because of the dynamics that you guys have created over the years, the easiest way for him to navigate experiencing the life that he wants to experience is by lying to you. You come in to realize that. And it's not personal. It is relational, but it being relational and common is different than it's personal and I want to hurt you. It took a lot with this particular father, but eventually we were able to have some great discussions about the dynamics and about the things that were going on. And sometimes you come to a head and you don't have a rigid parent that's being unreasonable. It's just, hey, look, we've got to accept this dynamic. Your child wants to do this, doesn't agree, and here's the boundary that you want to set, and they might lie. That brings me to a dynamic where we don't want to set our children up to lie, and we don't want to have insane conversations when we know that they've lied. And so this is another response I hear from parents. They'll tell me all about how they gave their child the chance to tell the truth and then they lied again. Look, your child's already lying. I don't want you playing games as you address the lying and trustworthy issue in the family. You realize your child lied. I want you to model just being straightforward, to the point, and transparent. Look, I know you lied. I'm not happy about it. Because you lied about this specific behavior, here's the boundary I'm putting in place. I still love you, but right now I'm really angry. Even though those might not be the exact words that you use, that's the stance, that's the spirit, that's the way to address it. You don't address lying with a bunch of complicated game-playing relational messes. Just hit it straight on. A lot of parents will ask a series of questions that they tell me, well, I'm saying it because I'm giving them a chance to tell the truth. But come on, you're setting them up, you're making a point, and I get it. It sucks. You hope and you wish your child would make a different decision. But right now, during this season, they are not making that decision that you want them to make. That idea of it's during this season is really important, because right now, during this season, your child may feel like they have to lie to you about things that they won't have to lie to you about in another season. And this whole lying issue, while we do not want to allow it to happen, we don't want to damage the entire relationship over it. We don't want to make it the focus of the relationship, because oddly enough, when it becomes the entire focus of the relationship, you make it more likely that they are going to lie more. It's important to have a discussion about these issues that they might lie about ahead of time. Get it out on the table. Look, I know you really, really, really want to smoke weed, and you think I'm a out-of-touch parent for thinking that it's a big deal, because you don't think it's a big deal. But here's the thing. Right now, I love you, and there's a lot I trust in you, but I don't trust you to not use weed. So I am going to check your drawers. I am going to make sure to see and do my due diligence in terms of keeping weed or drugs or whatever it might be out of the home. That conversation is okay and won't ruin the relationship, even if they throw a little temper tantrum right there. What you don't have to say is, well, because I know you're going to lie about this, you might lie about everything. You can say, look, I trust you in a lot of subjects, but I'm not trusting you with these subjects that you have lied to me about. That message, oddly enough, becomes healthier than putting them in a situation where they just give up, because they have an impulse often. The things they lie about, there's this deep impulse that even if they want to tell the truth in the moment, they find themselves lying about it. And even if they're regretful, it's hard to overcome that, right? That's a part of the character building. We want them to overcome that, but we don't want to get in the way of them being able to overcome that. So it's kind of like this balance. Look, stick to your boundaries. Don't be okay with their lying, but make yourself safe to eventually tell the truth to. And what's interesting is if you follow through with boundaries, but you don't yell and you don't flip out and you don't constantly call them liars and you don't tell them, oh, now, gosh, now I can't trust you with anything. What happens is when you keep it balanced, when you make it so that, again, you're a safe person to eventually come clean to, you will be influencing them to be more honest down the road than that really rigid parent who gets really, really angry and yells and takes everything away. And so that's one piece to this. There's a lot of dynamics to dealing with this in parenting. A few more points. Number one, like I said earlier, really think about, well, why aren't they telling the truth? Because that might help you guys together to come up with a plan or come up with boundaries or come up with some dynamic where it's less likely that they lie. Don't set them up for lying by asking obvious questions where you're just testing them. Ask yourself, what are they protecting? And sometimes when you understand what they're trying to protect, you can have a healthier conversation about that. That recently happened in my office because a teen was lying about sneaking out, and it turned out that they were meeting up with somebody that the parents didn't approve of, yada, yada, yada. And then because it was asked, well, okay, what are you protecting? It's, look, I'm protecting my senior year. I don't have much time with this person that makes me feel so good. And asking that question led to a really cool conversation about how this teen knew that there were dynamics that were unhealthy about this relationship, but the parents also found out some dynamics about this relationship that were really benefiting the teen. And so together they were able to kind of come up with a healthier way to navigate the fact that this teen was going to have this relationship with this person no matter what. But the parents now were in a position to influence the child more. And then the lying, we stopped talking about the lying. Because they initially, the issue was brought up, they're lying all the time and sneaking out and hanging out with people that they're not telling the truth about. Well, really the issue was the disagreement in this one relationship. I love that question instead of the lecture. Hey, bud, can you help me understand what it is that you're trying to protect? And sometimes they'll be flippant and it won't lead to anything, but sometimes it opens up a great, great conversation. I want all the parents to ask themselves, what do you actually model? Now, most parents, when I say that, they go, well, we're trustworthy. We don't lie. We do the right thing. But then when I kind of unfold things, there's little white lies here and there. And then sometimes there are justifications for not being completely honest because maybe the parents disagree with a certain rule in society or with taxes or whatever it might be. But really, what are you actually modeling? This one issue comes up, and I've talked about it in the past, where parents will justify calling the school for their children, saying they're sick when they're not actually sick. And I get it. I get that there might be circumstances where that feels justified. But again, you got to ask yourself, what the heck am I modeling? Sometimes when you get real honest with yourself about what you've modeled, in your marriage, what you've modeled to the outside world, in business, with the school system, with taxes, with getting tickets, with driving your car, whatever it might be. Really ask yourself, day in and day out, what am I modeling? Because if you do everything honestly and are honest about everything except for those one or two things, sometimes those one or two things that your kids pick up on become their reason and justification for having their own justifications of, well, I only lie about this thing, and this is the reason that I do it, and I can justify why I do it. Again, asking yourself what you've modeled and then coming clean. A parent who can say, you know what, I've been looking at myself over all these years, and there's these things that I was not thinking about, but now I realize I haven't been totally honest, and I kind of want to work on that, and I want to have an open conversation with you. What happens is, even though you've modeled the wrong thing, that honesty, that shift becomes a very powerful influence in your child's life. As you struggle, if you're a parent that struggles with your child telling the truth, I want you to kind of go through some of these questions. And then last, and most importantly, I want you to make a plan. How am I going to respond if or when my child lies? How big a reaction am I going to have? Am I going to nag? Am I just going to set boundaries, voice them, move on? Am I going to take it personally? Am I going to bring it up every time? Am I going to do that whole contract thing where I say, you need to earn my trust back? Or am I just going to recognize during this season right now, these are the things that I can't trust? Are you going to have an open, calm conversation that is transparent, or are you going to play games? So it's obvious what I think should happen in terms of a reaction. But if you're listening to this and you are kind of identifying with some of the things that I'm talking about, I want you to make a plan. I want you to write down for yourself specific things that maybe you struggle to trust your teen with. And then I want you to make a plan in terms of setting boundaries, and then write down a plan in terms of your actual reaction. And write down the tone you want to have, the things you don't want to repeat or you do want to repeat, the lesson you want to teach or don't want to teach. And read it. Read it several times so that it's kind of stuck in your brain. I could talk about this issue all day long, but I'm going to end it there. And I think that in the future, I'll probably address this issue several times over.
The Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens podcast is an Inspired Resolutions production. Hosted by Brandon Jaffe. Edited and mixed by Natalie Atkinson. Music by Natalie and Sean Atkinson. Inspired Resolutions Counseling is based in Yorba Linda, California. Whether you're interested in joining our group, seeking therapy services, or exploring more of our resources, you can find us on our website, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at Inspired Resolutions Counseling.